Good evening, everybody. It's very nice to see you. Hope that everybody is doing well. A few more people just making their way into the room. So we'll just let folks join. And here they come. Very glad to see everybody. Very glad that people have chosen to show up for this class, so that we can work together on the subject of happiness, which is so often elusive. A few more people still arriving. But in a moment, I am going to begin. I do believe in not penalizing folks who turn up on time. So in a moment, I'm going to begin. Let me just introduce myself, although I think I have met most, if not all of you face to face at this point. I'm Rabbi Deborah Silver. I work a lot with the over 55 section of the IKAR community. I'm a pastor, I'm a writer, and the older I get, the more interested I become in life's big questions and reevaluating what I thought, what I was convinced was true. And that's really the point of origin of these classes, asking myself, is there wisdom within the Jewish tradition? Is there wisdom outside the Jewish tradition that we can mash up together on this subject of what is happiness, and is there a way that we can make our experience richer? I want to say at the beginning that often these are questions that come up as people get older, but I want to say from the off that this is not conscious aging work. I have other classes for that. So I'm hoping that we're going to get a nice varied group of people in here. So with that, it is 7:02. I'm going to share my screen and we'll begin. So a few introductory slides for us. First of all, the cartoon. When I plugged Finding Happiness into Google, I got a number of cartoons, but this is the one that I really liked. You'll notice that there is the happiness balloon that is running away from the person who is chasing after it. And this is an image that we often encounter, that happiness is something that it's there and we know what it looks like and we think we know what it feels like as well, but somehow it always seems to elude us. Somehow it is just out of our reach. And one of the purposes of this class is to explore why that feeling is so common and why it is that it might be so. I want to introduce us next to our teachers. On the left is Arthur Brooks. Just drop into the chat, if you will, if you're already familiar with the work of Arthur Brooks. If not, I hope that one of the takeaways from the course for you will be to get to know his work better. He's an author and an academic. He started out actually as a French horn player, rather a good one, in an orchestra. And then he switched, and he's currently at the Harvard Kennedy School and the Harvard Business School, where he has leadership roles. And before that, he was the 11th president of the American Enterprise Institute. But his real field of expertise is the study of happiness. And that's where I first encountered his work, in the column that he writes for the Atlantic. The series is called How to Build a Life. And that is a series that is specifically on the subject of happiness. So that is Arthur Brooks. I commend his work to you. He podcasts, he writes, and he is always, always interesting to read. This chap here is the other one of our teachers, and the truth is that we don't know what this gentleman looked like, or if indeed he was one gentleman or a collection of gentlemen or even ladies. We simply don't know because his work is so very old. But he wrote a compelling study of happiness and the quest for happiness that is part of our canon. It's part of our Bible. In Hebrew, he goes by the name Kohelet. Kohelet is the person who gathers people together, like the word kahal. So Kohelet, the teacher, or Kohelet, the preacher. And that's what gives him his Greek name, Ecclesiasticus, someone who gathers people together. And thus his book is named Ecclesiastes in English. It's a book of 12 chapters. We do not know exactly when it was written or if it is a collation of teachings. We just know that this is one of the 3 books in the Tanakh, the other 2 being Proverbs and Job, that deal with real existential questions head on. Why does evil happen to good people? The book of Job. What are the values, the morals, the ethics, the choices by which we should be guiding our lives? Proverbs. And for Kohelet, for Ecclesiastes, what is happiness and what isn't happiness? Why is it so elusive? And how do we live to live best? Our third set of teachers are each other. This is a wisdom gathering. This is, I want to call it a soul circle. Part of our modality will be to be in breakout rooms with each other, accessing and sharing each other's wisdom. So we are ourselves also teachers in this class. Our voices matter and our experiences matter. A little bit of administrivia before we climb in. 4 classes, 4 weekly classes. I would suggest bringing along some writing materials to the class so that you can journal. Recordings of the classes are going to be available on the IKAR YouTube channel, so you'll be able to look at the class again afterwards or share it. And I know for a fact that there are some people who couldn't make this first class, but who will be watching and catching up afterwards. And although this is a Zoom class, it is not a class whereby I am going to be talking with you all the time. Sometimes we are going to be in group, as we are now. When we are in group, I suggest, please, to everyone that you open the chat line, which has already begun with people's experiences of, or not experiences yet, of the work of Arthur Brooks. Please have the chat line open. It enables you to be in conversation with each other while I am in conversation with you, and it enables us to surface questions. So I use the chat line quite extensively when I'm teaching over Zoom, and I warmly invite you to do so as well. Those of you who have been in Morning Minion will have a sense of what I'm talking about. There's a very active chat line there, and it contributes a lot to the proceedings. There's also going to be some time where we are each working individually. We're going to be engaged in personal work, and we will also do some small group work by way of breakout rooms. And that's an important aspect of the class as well, because this class, as with every other class at IKAR, will, I hope, enable us to build community by engaging around thoughts and questions that matter. And that won't happen if I do all the talking. So those breakout groups are an important part of the class and an important part of the learning, and you're warmly invited to join them. For a group like this, where we're going to be diving deep, we need a container, we need some touchstones, and these are ours. The first is that what we talk about in this group is confidential. We may be able to say, I was in a really interesting group last night on the subject of finding happiness, but we are not going to be sharing each other's wisdom without permission. So a confidential space allows us to be vulnerable, allows us to go deep with each other. Similarly, I ask that we be present as fully as possible. Just about everybody at the moment has their face on camera. Thank you. I know that that is not always possible, and I recognize that. So if you need to hop off camera while we're in group, you can. But I do most warmly invite you to be face to face with each other in the breakout rooms so that you can connect and so that we can achieve that greater aim of building community within IKARs, so that when you next walk into the great big room full of people with Hillel singing, you can go, oh, I recognize somebody. And not just that, I already know something about them. So that's part of what the class is designed to achieve. I ask also, as we begin to dig into these questions, that we speak our truth in ways that respect others' truths, that we respond to each other with questions rather than statements. And that's because we want to try and keep the flow of conversation open. So if somebody says, I find myself grappling with something, and somebody else says, oh, I did that too, and what I found was this, that has shut the conversation down, despite the fact that it worked for that one person. So I invite us to respond with questions. I invite us also to refrain. Participation is by invitation and not by demand. As I quip about it, this is not a share or die environment. You might find that there are times where you want to be quiet and listen for each other's wisdom. But please, when you're in small group, seek permission from the group to do so. And most importantly, we are not here to fix each other. We are not here to save each other. We are not here to advise each other. And goodness knows, we are not here to correct each other. We are here to learn from each other. One of the lovely things about the groups that I've run at IKAR is that that is something that is very well understood by group members, that we're not engaged in putting each other right. We are engaged with curiosity in exploring together. And happiness is a very worthwhile subject to explore. So we're ready to begin work. I always invite, let me stop the share for a moment. I always invite two things at the beginning of every class I run. I invite us to bless our learning, and I invite us to dedicate our learning to those who are in our hearts, or those in our community who we're thinking about. So a dedication can be for a happy reason or a sad reason. It can be for an individual, or it can be for a group of people. And we're a small enough group just for me to ask you to unmute if you have somebody you want to dedicate our learning to this evening. It's thought that the mitzvah of learning together creates a little wave of goodness that goes out into the world and does good. So is there anybody to whom we would like to dedicate tonight? Please just speak up.
Yeah, so I will dedicate my learning about happiness to my late daughter, Faith Shvan Pagodi, Hana Shoshana Batmakla.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you. We welcome her presence into the room as well. Thank you. Joel.
Sure. This is Joel Trugman. I would never thought about this, but I would dedicate my learning to my father, who was always very curious about everything. So,
Thank you, Joel. Tell us his name.
Bernard Trugman.
Thank you. Thank you. So we dedicate to him too. And Sarah, I see your hand up.
Yes, I'd like to dedicate this to my daughter, Nora, who has doing it fine, but it's had a lot of health struggles in the last couple of years. And happiness is elusive to her as it is to me.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. We will work on it together. These are big grown-up questions, yes, so we do them together. And Susan.
I'd like to dedicate to the healing of Joe Schwartz and Florine for the recovery or relief, and also for the victims of the attack in Boulder, who marching for the hostages.
Thank you. Thank you. And we bring them and our thoughts of them into the room as well, and we lift them up in our learning. And we hope that our learning and our wisdom creates just a little bit more goodness in the world. So the bracha, and I'll invite us to say it together, is Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And I would translate that something like, let us bless the source of our lives, the spirit of the world, who makes us holy through sacred obligation and has demanded of us that we become involved with matters of wisdom. There we are. That'll do as a translation for a class on happiness. So if we're ready, off we go. We're going to go to the chat. I'm inviting you to share your name. If you have a nickname, if you want to share your pronouns, all of those are good chat content. And I'd love to know from you what drew you to this group. So let me just stop the share so that we can look at the chat line. Okay, your name, maybe your location as well, although I think this is an entirely Los Angeles class. What drew you to the class? What made you think, oh, I'm going to spend an hour or so of my Wednesday evening with a rabbi thinking about what happiness is? Thank you. Thanks, Ilan. Nice to meet you. Hi, Esther. Yeah, you'll need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
You do.
My name is Esther Shapiro. I've been a member of IKAR for probably 6 or 7 years. Unfortunately, I'm not very mobile. I'm in a wheelchair, and so I don't get to services very often, but of course I do watch most of it on YouTube. And the issue of happiness is interesting to me because I don't know if I said I'm 93 years old, and I just had a conversation with a friend of mine this evening who is younger, or maybe she's 85, and she was just miserable. And I thought, so I said to her, are you on an antidepressant? Because I happen to be on an antidepressant, which works very well for me. So, you know, at 93, your life is like closing in on you. And in many instances, in the groups I belong to, both professionally and personally, I'm the last one standing. I'm literally the last one standing of any professional group, any personal group, whatever. I've had some rough years. I lost my husband. His your side is on Sunday, 4 years ago. And but generally, I think I'm doing pretty well, as a matter of fact. And one of the ways that I became familiar with Rabbi Silver is that I'm planning my own funeral, which is kind of a bit of a kick. But I have one daughter who's not in touch with me, and the other daughter lives in Washington State. So I figured if this is going to be anything, I'm going to have to kind of micromanage it. And I will say that Rabbi Silver has been very generous in understanding my needs. So,
Thank you, Esther.
as I say, I don't know very many people at IKAR because I don't go to services. So this is a nice way for me to connect with other members.
Thank you so much, Esther. Thank you. And I'm noting in the chat as well that there is this feeling, oh, Marlin, thank you. I want to study with you too. But I'm noting there is this feeling of sort of questing after happiness. I wondered what would drop into the chat. How do we find it? How do we hold it? How do we hang on to it? Could we do it better? Could we improve our ability to maintain happiness? And I noticed that Mara as well has said some Jewish perspectives, and I'm a rabbi, so those are definitely going to be coming into the class as well. But what I want to propose for the rest of the class as a starting point for all of us, there's going to be 4 classes. This first one will be a negative, and then the other 3 will be towards the positive. Let me explain. When Maimonides, the Rambam, wants to talk about God, he points out numerous times that in order to get an understanding of God when you're a human being, you have to start with what God isn't. It's called negative theology. And that actually works very well that approach works very well when you're trying to get your arms around the idea of a subject that is as elusive as happiness. So we are going to start tonight, we are going to start from what happiness isn't. We're going to start taking a close look at the things that we believe will make us happy, and then we are going to zero in on whether they really do or whether we just thought they did. Okay, and the way that I propose to do this is through an exercise that Arthur Brooks lists. He's written articles about it. You can find talks about it, and it's a section of one of his books as well. And it starts with the question, what is a bucket list? Please drop into the chat. What is a bucket list? Why is it called a bucket list? Go ahead and drop it into the chat. I have a definition for us, but I'm interested to hear from the wisdom in the room. Okay, a bucket list. Yep, absolutely, Nicole. It's a list of things to do before you kick the bucket. Yes, Judith, things that you hope to do before you die, things you want to accomplish, things you would really like to do, a list of supposedly the best things ever. Good. A bucket list is all of these things, and it is an excellent way as well. Making a short bucket list is an excellent way of focusing our attention on it's a good snapshot of what we currently think happiness is as well. It works very well. So this is the Merriam-Webster definition. It's a list of things that you haven't done before, but you want to do before dying. Okay, I would say go beyond the Merriam-Webster division and add in other things as well. And I'm going to offer you 4 categories. I'm going to ask you to take a piece of paper and something to write with, or open up a document on your computer, or grab a lipstick and a bed sheet, or whatever it is that you can write with. And I'm going to give us 10 minutes. We haven't got longer than that, but I'm going to give you 10 minutes of personal journaling time to put together an example of a bucket list. It won't be comprehensive in 10 minutes, but it'll give you a useful snapshot. And I want to offer 4 categories. Okay, so there might be bucket list items that have to do with money. I want to be able to, I want to live at a certain level of, and so on and so. I want to be able to buy a Ferrari, so on and so on. Sometimes bucket list items are about power or authority. I want to reach a certain level in my job. I want to know before I die that I have a certain level of expertise. Quite often, items on a bucket list are pure pleasure items. I will leave the nature of those pleasures up to you. I should add that the list is not for sharing unless you choose to. You know, what are some of the things that you want to do between right now, here on a Wednesday evening, where it is 7:26 in Los Angeles and will be a different time in Tucson? Shannon, thank you for joining us here. I recognize it's later for you. You get extra kudos for that. But before we get to the end, what are the things that we want to do that are going to bring us pleasure? And are there things that we want to do because they will bring us admiration? And I want to spread that category wide. It's not necessarily I want to write the op-ed in the New York Times. Yeah, although that would indeed bring us admiration. It's not necessarily I want to talk from the bimmer at IKAR, although that would bring us a deal of admiration too. But to what extent is our happiness involved with that feeling of being admired or respected or honored? Okay, so as the items come up, just go ahead, assign them to one of the categories, put the pen on the paper and keep writing, keep writing. I'm going to go quiet for about 10 minutes.
Oh, I just have a clarification question.
Sure.
Because I feel like you're confusing things that will make you happy and a bucket list. And so I don't know which list you want me to write, because things that are on my bucket list are not necessarily things that would make me happy.
Understood.
So,
Start with the bucket list and we'll
okay.
explore it. But start with the bucket list. Thanks for clarifying, Judith.
Could you clarify power?
Yes, power is power over others. You know, being the boss, being the manager, that kind of thing. You're about halfway through the time allocation. I can say another 3 minutes. If you find that you've run out of things for now, although I hope you'll keep the piece of paper, you might want to notice whether you've got a bulge in one category or a dearth in another. If you numbered the categories 1, 2, 3, and 4, what order would they be in? Yeah, so for another couple of minutes, just please go ahead, keep adding to your list. Just 1 minute more. And remember, this is only an initial exercise. It does not have to be the last word on the subject. So let me ask you to finish writing down whatever item it is that you're writing. I'll ask you to please know that this is an exercise that you can come back to at any time. Within the class setting, it works as an initial snapshot, but in fact, the exercise as a whole is a good one to repeat every so often. Arthur Brooks does this exercise on his birthday every year. I want to suggest that for us, somewhere between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is a very good time to be focusing on these kinds of questions. Okay, So now in front of you, you should have a basic, it might not be finished, but you have a basic list of these 4 categories. Mara, I see your hand, just give me a sec. You have the beginning of a list of these 4 categories. And while a bucket list, as Judith very, very wisely pointed out, a bucket list will not exactly correspond to things that make me happy. It's not a bad place to begin grouping our thoughts about happiness, our aspirations about happiness, and our current understandings about happiness together. So Judith, props to you, and that is exactly where we are going. Mara, you had a question?
Actually, that was it. I wanted to know the categories again. So thanks.
Oh, good. Okay. I don't often read people's minds, so I'm glad of that. I'm glad of that. Thank you. Okay, so we now have a list of items in front of us, right? A list of items that are aspirational, whether in terms of money, whether in terms of power, whether in terms of pleasure, whether in terms of admiration. Judith has already noted that this might not correspond exactly to the things that make us happy. It's time to meet Kohelet. It's time to meet Ecclesiastes. I'm going to read this out loud, but let me introduce it simply by saying that the opening words are of Kohelet's book are something to the effect of everything is ephemeral, nothing lasts. Depending on the translation that you're reading, it's vanity of vanities, it's mere breath, it's emptiness upon emptiness. The proposition that nothing that you think is worthwhile is as worthwhile as you think. So listen to the words of this preacher. He writes, I multiplied my possessions. I built myself houses and I planted vineyards. I laid out gardens and groves in which I planted every kind of fruit tree. I constructed pools of water enough to irrigate a forest shooting up with trees. I bought male and female slaves and I acquired stewards. I also acquired more cattle, both herds and flocks, than all who were before me in Jerusalem. I further amassed silver and gold and treasures of kings and provinces, and I got myself male and female singers as well as the luxuries of commoners, coffers and coffers of them. Thus I gained more wealth than anyone before me in Jerusalem. In addition, my wisdom remained with me. I withheld from my eyes nothing they asked for and denied myself no enjoyment. Rather, I got enjoyment out of all of my wealth. That was what I got out of my wealth. But my thoughts turned to all the fortune my hands had built up, to the wealth I had acquired and won, and oh, it was all futile and pursuit of wind. There was no real value under the sun. This is Kohelet, like many, many wise people throughout history, learning that the things that you thought would make you happy do not make you happy. And that is because I want to suggest, and these are not my thoughts, these are Arthur Brooks' thoughts. This is because very often when we consider what we think makes us happy, it's based on some false propositions. Okay, so have your list in front of you. I'm going to set out the 4 false equations that we think are going to make us happy, but actually they don't. Everybody still with me? Okay, because this is heavy work for late at night. I'm just saying, because these are real questions. Here are the 4 false equations. Here are things that when we think about happiness, we find that we bump into a framework of belief about it, but actually it's not true. So the first idea is that satisfaction, making ourselves happy, having a feeling of happiness, having a feeling of yeah, which is one of the components of happiness, to be satisfied. Satisfaction equals getting what I want. But we know, don't we, that getting what we want will not necessarily make us happy. And there is a scientific reason for why this is so. Brain scientists will tell us that this is all because of the principle of homeostasis, that what happens is that we adapt to whatever it is that we've got. I will give you an example. It's so that we don't kind of dissolve into a puddle of pleasure and we keep aspiring. So, for example, for me, it's always shoes. So indulge me. There's a pair of shoes, they're John Fluvog's shoes. They're in the window of John Fluvog's in Venice. I want these shoes. I crave these shoes. I think that when I have these shoes, I will be happy. I buy the shoes. I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy because it doesn't work like that. The thing that I thought I wanted stops satisfying me after a while. So I rework my satisfaction equation. I say to myself, now if I could only continually get what I want, then I would be happy, right? I wouldn't have I loved it when it was in the shop window, but it doesn't work quite the same way. Now the shoes that are in my closet, I want a degree of continuity about getting what I want. This is what Ecclesiastes was talking about. I got myself this, I got myself this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and my wisdom remained with me, and still not happy. Still, I look at everything that I have accumulated, and it's still not making me happy. And not just that, but I am now behaving like a shoe addict. Because you see, in order to keep my wishes fed, I have to have more shoes. Everybody following me? Substitute whatever you want for shoes. Yeah, it could be chocolate, could be motor cars, could be travels across the world, could be whatever it is. We know this feeling of dissatisfaction, right? We are familiar with this feeling of dissatisfaction, and it springs from a mistaken understanding of what satisfies us. Real satisfaction is not necessarily about getting what we want or getting what we want all the time. Okay? Please keep the chat open, drop thoughts in the chat as we go, and I'll gather them up at the end. Third false equation is that if we continually have more than others, then we're a successful person. And once again, this has got a sting in its tail, right? Not least because continually having more than others means that we continually have to be acquiring, which means that we get to the point of the New Yorker cartoon of the guy standing in front of the garage with the kid, and the garage is overflowing with stuff. And the man is saying to the child, someday, son, this will all be yours. Yeah, we use our stuff as a measure of whether we are or are not successful. And it doesn't work, and it makes us miserable. And the converse is also true. We tell ourselves, this little misleading voice inside our heads, this happiness destroyer inside our heads, tells us also that if we've got less than somebody else, then we're a failure. And these four false equations are at play in our lives. And if we want to achieve a state that is closer to what we might call happiness or joy, then what Brooks suggests is that we need to start chipping away the things that we think are making us happy so that we can get a better handle on what actually might. This is the point at which I remind us that there are 3 more classes in the series that are going to be devoted to exploring those facets of happiness, the things that actually do have some degree of meaning and permanence in bringing us joy. There are such things, and every wisdom tradition lifts them up. Okay, so it's not, contrary to what Kohelet is saying, it's not all emptiness upon emptiness. We can do something about it, provided that we shift the ways that we are accustomed to thinking about being happy. So the final step of the exercise, and I'm going to pop you into breakout rooms for 15 minutes. I should have mentioned, by the way, that the class probably is going to go a little past the hour because I want it to take in some of you talking to each other. So I'm hoping that it will be okay for class to run to 8:15 rather than 8 o'clock. I'm really hoping that that will be all right. And if not, please drop it in the chat and let me know straight away. I'll plan differently for next week. But what I am going to do now is to pop you in breakout rooms, and I will invite you to share only as much as you wish to, but with honesty and with compassionate listening to each other. Whether there are things on your bucket list that got there because of one of these false equations. And we're going to start chipping away at the bucket list. Brooks calls it the reverse bucket list exercise. Okay. So let me pop you into breakout rooms. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves. I am going to give us 15 minutes. So please share the time with each other appropriately. Make sure that everybody who wants to speak gets a chance to speak. And remember, your mission is, do I have anything on my list that ended up there because I have an understanding of it making me happy that is based on one of these equations? Everybody clear on what your mission is, should you choose to accept it? I'm going to send you to breakout rooms. Hi, Lydia. Welcome back. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I said, I keep on falling off the group, so I think I just want to talk to you.
Oh, I see. Well, the others should be back soon.
Yeah, it was a lovely group.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. You had nice people in your group.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think everyone is nice.
Yeah. 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 No, there's been a bunch of good groups tonight.
And yes, shoes make me happy for a second.
Okay, everybody's going to get thrown back into the meeting. Here comes everyone. Here comes everyone. Hello, folks. Welcome back again. And grateful to see you, and grateful also to have the sense that you didn't all come rushing back into the main room. That to me suggests that those might have been some quite useful conversations. And I am sorry if they felt a little short. It may well be that in other sessions we can have a little bit more time.
I just want to say I'm quite confident that our group with Jody Strasberg and who was it?
Lydia.
Lydia was the best group. I'm confident.
Now, what was that about? About a false equation being constantly measuring ourselves against
I'm just
other
teasing,
people?
obviously.
No, ours was the best.
There you go.
Thank you, everybody. What a lovely crowd of people you are. Okay, so this is the piece that this is the piece of the session that I call the wisdom dump. Okay, what themes, what emerged from the session? Remember, let me just remind you, you were looking at, we'd made a list of things that we think might make us happy. We'd come across the fact that what we think might make us happy might not actually make us happy. We'd started to analyze why that might be. Did anybody learn? And this is a collective, this group, so I will take any and all wisdom, and there is no stealing, there is only sharing. So if somebody shares a piece of wisdom and you think, oh, I never thought about it like that, that's going to be helpful for me, then please go ahead and write that wisdom down. Okay, you can share by raising your hands, or you can share in the chat. Let's start with Susan.
Our group wondered how much of this is age related. And I'm not saying we didn't necessarily come to a conclusion, but especially the last two, comparing yourself to others, whether you would see a lot more people having that on their bucket list in their teens, 20s, 30s versus more mature people.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The way that it overlaps. And I noticed Elan in the chat saying something similar. Bucket list is tied to the life stage that you are in. Yes, so we're learning that our understanding of what constitutes happiness needs to be flexible and is a question of nurture as much as nature. Yes. Let's take Marlon, and then we'll take Mara, and you'll remind me, won't you, what order I said these names in. Marlon, let's take you first.
Thank you. I had mentioned that I was grateful to be reconnected with my old dear friend, not that she's old, my dear friend Judith, with whom I had not spent time in a long time, and Deborah, who is a new friend. And we had a very similar conversation, but personally, for me, the wisdom I gained from being in community is that I had first, of course, thought something was drastically wrong with me because my bucket list was so different from what I had expected it would be. I could not come up with anything material. I could not come up with any reason to enjoy any type of power because I am at this stage in my life. I am older and I don't care about that stuff anymore. So I was hard pressed to find anything to add to the categories, but everything had to do with being in community, being with family, being with people. And that's what's important. And we all seem to feel that as we age, if we're lucky. So thank you.
That's great. That's great. Yes. So remember I said that we were going to begin by doing an exercise of what isn't it, to begin to move ourselves towards what is. And yes, this is already a wise group in that respect. Yeah, so we're moving forwards fast. That's great. Mara.
I I was with Tansal. Great partner, was great talking with him. He gave me some great feedback initially on something that I had brought up, which he said, which I didn't realize was, well, which was a comparison of my life to others. So that was helpful. But the thing is that what he and I talked about in terms of the things that are enjoyable to us in our lives, that we want to have, that we acquire, that we want, that we get, you know, some things have to do with art, music, and for me, music for him was art, and some other things he talked about, and are satisfying to us and do fill us up. So it's not that it's so, like when you use the example of the shoes, I mean, which was the extreme. So the other things some things that we do have in terms of art, music, that they are satisfying, and so I think like what we were saying is like just to like realize maybe just the idea is to be aware of what it is that we do that does fill our cup and is satisfying to us, and to continue with those pieces. Of course, the flip side of that for me is I need money in order to be able to, you know, get better at the music I want, and, you know, take more lessons and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, so that's the catch-22. But anyway.
Lovely. Thank you. Yeah, you brought up one of the paradoxes that we're going to deepen into over the course. It's not that a rejection of material things immediately takes you to happiness, right? We have to live in relationship with the things in our life, with the stuff in our lives, and it's the how we live with it that is more important than the what of it. Yeah, that is already becoming very clear. Yeah, it's the quality of things. It's the relationships between things. It's the relationship between us and the subject. There's something in that chemistry that has to do with making us happy, with enabling us to keep a sense of lasting engagement and joy, that is real and is deep, and does not mean that we're just prancing around doing clouds and unicorns. Yeah, it's something that is much more satisfying than that. Yeah, so it's not just, you know, Ecclesiastes and Kohelet starts off by saying, well, I acquired a whole load of stuff, and then I realized that all the stuff was meaningless. Spoiler alert, he is not going to go on to say, I got rid of all of the stuff and then I was happy. Because if that were the case, it would be a very short book, and it's actually got 12 chapters. So it's more complex. It's richer than that. It has to do with the way that we relate. It has to do with the way that we gain meaning. It has to do with the effort that we put in, and all sorts of other things as well. Beautiful. Thank you. This is going to be a good series. Lydia, let me take one more spoken comment, and off you go. We're listening.
Yeah, so we were talking in our group, is happiness a lasting feeling or is just a moment of joy?
Yeah.
Is it related to material things or is it just a feeling? So, you know, when you talk about lasting feelings, is that truly happiness, or is that contentment, or is that pleasure? but true happiness is just a moment, a feeling.
So is it ephemeral? Is what you're asking? Is it that you can only, what does William Blake say? You have to learn to kiss the joy as it flies. Yeah, because nothing is going to be lasting. But if that is the case, and if we need to have happiness in order to be able to thrive, then are we just chasing the balloon? Are we just, is the whole point not to, that the balloon can never be caught, but that there is some merit in going on chasing it anyway? Or is there something else going on as we evaluate our lives? And I will say that this is a course that is designed to stimulate us to reevaluate. Yeah, Kohelet is a book of reevaluation. I thought this was true, but it turns out that this is not true. So what do I do now? Where do I base my life? What are the foundations of my life? And have I got it all wrong? Sarah, I'm noticing, yes, love and gratitude and awe and beauty. Where do all of those fit in? And notice how relational those words are. Yeah, again, it comes down to, it's not a gathering. Happiness is not a heaping up of all or of things and what's. Happiness is more like a how. Happiness is more like a process because it is in the chemistry of the way that we relate to aspects of our life. Yes? So it's really nice and complicated, which is exactly as I like it. Okay? Let me summarize. I don't want to keep you too long past 8:15. Let me summarize. Here is what we did. We came together because we were interested in exploring the concept of happiness. What is it? What is it for? Can we raise the level of happiness? Nora, is that a baby? That's instant happiness right there. Okay, everybody look in Nora's window. That's what happiness. Okay, I can retire
That's
now.
it.
That's it. Thank you, Nicole. Yes, the one of my favorite bits of Blake, and then we made a list of some of the things that might make us happy. Then we did a really deep analysis of that list and asked whether any parts of that list were based on false equations. So we got ourselves into a state of confusion and doubt and possibly a bit of frustration and so on and so on. But all of that is designed to break these preconceptions, to break these received ideas that we're living by without even knowing that we're living by them, these assumptions that we make about our lives. And in the next 3 sessions, we're going to cast around and we're going to gather wisdom on some things that might provide a firmer foundation than listing out things that we think might bring us admiration or pleasure or power or money. Yeah, and we're going to look more deeply at how we relate to those things, because in the way that we relate lies the secret of finding our joy. Okay, and I'm going to throw the word joy, simcha, in at the end of it. It's a very important word in Ecclesiastes, and we will be coming back to it next week. I hope that this has been thought-provoking. I hope that it has felt like a good beginning. Please muse on it over the course of the week. I'll just take the last question from Mara, and then I'll see you next week.
Can you just repeat the last thing you said? Because I wrote it down. You said, in the way we relate is how we, what did you say? Is how we find joy. Is that what you said?
It's something to do with it. Yeah, it's the way that we relate to things that can unlock our joy.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that help? I'm never very good at repeating myself exactly, but it will be there on the video. You can play the video again. So this class has been videoed. It will be up on the YouTube channel, and thank you. And I will see everybody same time next week, if not before. I wish us a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Take care. God bless everybody.
you.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
You
Bye-bye.
all. Bye.